This is a video news release from Recognition PR. Media platforms and social media platforms can use the content copyright free, providing it's set in an appropriate context. Today, we're talking to Salutem Healthcare. The chief executive is John Godden. John, your business provides at many outlets across the country, hundreds of outlets, care for and support for adults and children with complex needs, around 120 facilities. Tell me how you are able to deal with them in this difficult crisis.
I mean, it's been a bit of a challenge, although a lot of the things that have now become everybody's new norm were normalized for us. Infection control is something that's always been important to us. A lot of the individuals that we provide care for are immunocompromised anyway. They've got cerebral palsy, or they've got some other issues that mean that we always have to be very, very careful around infection control. And the way they lead their lives in our homes is actually in accord with what happens when people are in lockdown. So it's interesting that the general population are now experiencing some of the things that are normal in care homes for adults and children with learning disabilities and physical disabilities. So in some ways, the normal has come to us.
It must be very difficult to communicate with the people that you deal with and explain why there is a lockdown. Has it been necessary to do so?
Of course. I think most people have got some idea and concept of what it's like to communicate with people who've got perhaps Asperger's or some other type of autism. They don't have that same sort of logical approach, or sometimes they're over logical to things. So we have to explain it to them in terms that are relevant to them. And it's the same with all other, communicating to the old or the young. You've got to make it real to them. It's no good just to sort of say, because. You've got to really get them to engage with it and understand. But again, this is normal for us. We are used, and our staff are used to communicating with people to give them normal life experiences, even though communication can be abnormal or compromised with many of our individuals in our care.
The social care sector, of which you're an important part, obviously has an important role in this crisis. There may be users of services like yourself that are at home as well as in your service. So are you able to offer more support for families? Because if you have a young person or a young adult, for instance, that has Asperger's or a special care need, and they're at home with more people, there might be more need for care.
Yeah, I mean, look, most of the people we look after are in the settings that we own and control, away from family groups. And we actually have moved very, very quickly to get into isolation, again, because it's something that's more familiar to us than the normal population. But yeah, we've had to change some of the things we do. We run special schools, and that's where the big changes happen. Some of the children who attend day schools have found that because they are immunocompromised, they can't go back to the family home because there's too much risk. So we are accommodating them in the residential elements of the school. We have day services. We've got a very big one in Birmingham. Now, the day service itself, we've had to close because we can't have people coming in from their various homes every day into that fairly small space. So we've done outreach. We've reversed it. Instead of them coming to us and our staff are going into their homes and doing things with them. So yeah, I mean, as with everybody in this environment, you've had to be flexible about it. But what we do is always important, but its importance has been elevated at the moment. There's this constant tension between the NHS and social care. We've always had the view that the two need to be seen together. They need to be working in tune. And that message has really been hit home by this COVID issue. The NHS need social care to be high functioning because we take the pressure off. We're looking after people who are stable. They are looking after people who are unstable.
So clearly you're able to ramp up your service. You've been flexible with your service, and you've been using some of your common ways of working to spread the message about your service. But what about things like recruitment? Because it's a staff-heavy service. There's one-to-one quite often required.
or 2 to 1 or 3 to 1. Look, I mean, fundamentally, we're people looking after people. That's what we do. So our whole being is about the people we have that work with us, that are skilled, that are empathetic and capable of providing the care we need. Now, we've been hit like everybody else. We're about 22% of our staff are self-isolating or unable to work, and that is a problem. So we are working hard to bring more staff in. It's interesting times. Key workers are now seen as the go-to. I mean, that's what everybody now wants to aspire to be.
Yeah.
And that's been well defined. And social care has had its is now seen in a much more favourable light. We are having a higher volume of people wanting to come and work with us and for us. We need that. We need to accelerate that. There was a very important announcement in the last day or so from the government that people who are furloughed from other closed industries, airlines particularly, are allowed to work temporarily for care companies without invalidating the furlough. Those things are very important on a temporary basis, but on a long-term basis, we want to attract more well-motivated people into our sector. It's really important.
So, although you might need some temporary workers, you're also thinking long-term. It's possible that if somebody has this COVID virus shock to their economy because they've lost their job, they could actually retrain, come and work for you.
Yeah. Yeah, look, I mean, in any given year, we hire around about 600 new people. I think we've got about 250 vacancies at the moment. So there's a huge amount of opportunity with us. And, we've always been seen as a little bit of the poor cousin to NHS and clinical care. And that really isn't the case. We constantly get branded as being low paid, underpaid. Now, of course, we do have some roles in the company that are in the lower end of the spectrum, but national living wage has fundamentally altered that in the last few years. And, those pay levels, they're not where I would want them, but they're a lot better than they were. But we have a lot of very well-paying roles, the management roles, the leadership amongst certain specialities. I mean, we're doing some really, really complex, skill-driven care. And the people providing that in our organization are very well rewarded. We are not the poor cousin of the NHS. And I think people are now realizing that.
Well, I'll put a link to your website above our video in this LinkedIn page, and hopefully people will inquire, because you have a fantastic company, it's growing, and hopefully you're going to be one of the people that comes out of this terrible emergency stronger. John Godden, thank you very much.
Thank you.